Got it. All right, so let's go live. And we are going live. Got it. All right, and we're recording. I think we are good to go. I'm super excited about this. Everyone, welcome back. Actually, let me use my fancy mic here since I have it. I got to do anything to make this voice sound good, so I got a good mic and a good green screen. So everyone, welcome back to another Live with Blocky on I Love Dentistry. And we have a super exciting panel of experts about life coaching and how important it is for dental professionals to get involved with a life coach. And I'm your host, Dr. Eric Block. Please check out my first book, The Stress-Free Dentist, and my second book, Stress-Free Dental Implants, which you can find on Amazon or thestressfreedentist.com. And also check out my upcoming personal development retreat for dentists called Roses and Thorns. And you can find that at dentalgrowthcon.com, which is in Chicago, May 18th to May 20th. It's all inclusive. It's going to be a no BS, intense, but fun retreat where we get into each other's strengths and weaknesses, and we learn from each other, and we have check-ins to make sure you follow up with your intentions and goals. So dentalgrowthcon.com. All right, enough about me. Let's get to our superstar guest panel here. And I'm going to have each one of you kind of introduce yourselves. I'm going to start with, well, first of all, we have Karen Tyndall, we have Laura Schwint, we have Lonnie Grass, and everyone here has so much to offer about dentistry and about life coaching. Karen, let's start with you. I just wanted to find out, first of all, how did you get involved with dentistry?
Yeah, well, thank you for having us here today. I just love looking at all these people on this screen, so it's super exciting. So as you can tell from my accent, I'm not a native to the United States. I'm from England originally. I've now been here for nearly 7 years, and I went into dentistry straight out of school at age 18. And in England, you just go straight into dental school. There's no undergrad degree first. So I qualified as a dentist. It's a 5-year course in England at that time, and I qualified just a few days short of my 23rd birthday. So I was a baby dentist who went into family dentistry first, very quickly realized that was not my thing. I did not enjoy fillings, extractions, root canals, crowns, you name it, it wasn't my thing. But I found my way into orthodontics, and that was my passion, and I loved it. I loved my patients. I loved making smiles for them. And it really was my place until I came to America. And I just couldn't transfer my qualification over. It wasn't that simple. I didn't have a visa, so I couldn't even work. For the first 4.5 years that I was here, I couldn't even work. So I looked for something to do, because after 1.5 years of doing nothing, I realized I was bored. And I was like, what can I do? And my husband said to me, well, you're really good at giving advice. Why don't you become a coach, a life coach? And I was like, oh, that's really interesting. Let me look into that. And then I realized that life coaching was not about giving advice. And that really intrigued me. Like, how can I help somebody, but without telling them what to do? Because being a dentist and in dentistry, you're very used to telling people what's the best thing for them to do. So that intrigued me, and that's how I went down the path to do training to become a professional certified life coach.
Excellent. And Laura, what about yourself?
Yeah, well, my road to dentistry was following my dad. My dad was a dentist, and he loved his profession. Even when he was the ripe age of 70, he had essentially retired, but he still taught at the local dental assisting school for many, many years, and they loved him. And I just thought, he loves his job so much. He's always home at night. He comes to my games. He supports me. I thought this sounds like a good career. And so in college, I took the DAT. I didn't even tell him, because I didn't even know if this was something that was going to pan out. But I took the DAT and I did well. And so I told him, I said, I think I'm going to do this. And I was the youngest of 6 kids, the only one to go into dentistry. So he was tickled pink. And so that was my route into dentistry. And yeah, and I'll get into the life coaching when we talk about life coaching.
Awesome. What about yourself, Lonnie? How'd you get involved with dentistry?
Yeah, I have a more of an indirect path, because I'm not actually a dentist. So, I've been a coach since 2010, but it wasn't until my husband, in his second in his second career, decided to go to dentistry. When he entered dental school, I was always been supportive of him and everything. So I just started talking to women dentists and women dental students. And so I organically just got involved organizing events, networking events when he was in dental school. So since 2015, I have been niched into women in dentistry. So that's how I got connected. And then also we bought a practice so that I'm also very familiar with the ins and outs of running the practice, especially behind the scenes and administrative and managerial sides. So that's how I know the different parts of dentistry.
And what about life coaching? How did you get involved with life coaching, and what does it mean to you to be a life coach?
Are you still talking to me?
Yes, still with you.
Okay. Well, in 2010, it's interesting. When I first began my consulting business in 2010, I was actually an image and branding consultant. And what I noticed is that people would come to me for image and branding, but what they really wanted was confidence. And so I would just start coaching them organically. And it was really interesting because I was so interested in people. And so I learned a lot. So I was over delivering on coaching, even though I was helping them with image and brand. And so I decided I'm just going to get my certification and become a coach. But what's interesting is, so life coaching and consulting is a little bit different. So I am more of a life coach / consultant. People come to me for actual answers, scripts and what to say, how to communicate things and how to do things. So I'm kind of a hybrid of that, but I love it. It's never been a day that I haven't, I've ever dreaded doing anything as far as coaching, as these ladies probably know.
That's great. Sounds like you found your passion and your calling. Karen, I'm going to go back to you because you mentioned you got involved with coaching, and it wasn't for you. It wasn't about giving advice. Can you explain that about how you got involved with coaching, what it means to be a life coach? Is it more about guiding the client? Is that what it is for you, Karen?
Yes, definitely. So there's that piece that coaching, the sort of coaching that I started off doing and still do now, mostly, I don't give advice to my clients. So I very much believe that each person is the expert in their own life. And they are looking for answers to a challenge, or maybe they're trying to set goals, or there's multiple different ways a coach can work with somebody. But for me, it's a dance of two people. And I like to follow my clients on that dance by asking the right questions, challenging what they're thinking, taking it back to what I know that what their values are and what is important to them. And I can follow them on the dance back and forth a little bit. I like using an analogy of being inside a plastic water bottle, a clear plastic water bottle, that people who are inside the water bottle, and that's the clients, that's the people we work with, they can see out and they have a very clear view of the world, and they can join and participate in that world fully. But the one thing they cannot do is they can't read the label that's on their water bottle. It's me being on the outside that can help them read their label and just take thought processes deeper than just somebody who would be considering things on their own.
That is an amazing analogy. I've never heard that before, and that is awesome. Can I use that? Because that is awesome. Yeah. Laura, what about yourself? How did you, the passion of coaching, and what does it mean to you to be a life coach?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, my introduction into life coaching was at the very bottom of my burnout when I hired my very first life coach. And my very first meeting with her, I was just floored because she only wanted to talk about me. And that was so unusual. I came in as the nurturer, as the caregiver, wanting to learn about her, wanting to know about her. And she just kept redirecting it, asking me questions. And it was just this eye-opening moment of, wow, she's going to require me to go within somewhere I haven't gone for a really long time and figure out some answers. And it was such a relief. It was hard work, but such a joy to have moments of the day where someone was just focused on you.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of our relationship, we coached for a year together. And the very last thing I said to her, I said, "You have given me such a gift. You have really saved my life." And she really did save my life. I would love to be able to give this to other women dentists. And she said, "You can. There's no reason you can't." And that stuck with me. That little comment stuck with me. And that was the genesis of my interest in life coaching. So that's, I think the beauty of it is that guaranteed time where you sit down with someone who really, like Karen said, challenges your beliefs, asks the right questions, gets you to go within and remember who you are and bring that back out.
Oh, that is so great. I find when I go to a lot of conferences, I'll ask dentists 3 questions. I'll ask them, "How's everything going?" And they'll say, "Awesome, great, everything's great." And I'll say, "How's everything going?" And they'll say, pretty good, pretty good." And I'll say, "How's everything going?" I'll say, "Well, there's some issues." So, to me, it's, like you said, Laura, it's just about keep asking those questions and focusing on the client. I wish people would just skip the first 2 questions and just, be open and honest and start answering the third question. But sometimes you gotta help them get there, right? Lonnie, what was would you say, like, your eureka moment where you discovered your passion for life coaching? What does it mean to you to be a life coach? How does it differ from, would you say, like a therapist, would you say?
I always think that life coaching and coaching in general really pushes you forward. It, meets you where you are, brings you forward. I don't spend time trying to figure out what happened in the past. I'm not a trained therapist, so I'm not going there. I'm like figuring out where they are, actually reconnecting them with who they are, and then so they can go forward. Because I don't believe that if you don't know who you are, if you don't reconnect with who you are, then it's really hard to like build a future that's authentic to yourself. Would you agree, ladies? This is, we get lost at a certain point in trying to be successful, building a life with a model that maybe wasn't ours, and then we lose ourselves, and then we're still building. And I think that's actually one of the reasons causes burnout. We lose track of our values. So reconnecting them and moving forward. And my eureka moment was, well, it happened before I knew I was an actual coach, was when I got feedback from a client that just started crying. And she said, "I can't believe you asked me that. And I can't believe I said that. It was the first time that I can't believe that you brought that out of me." And I think that the magic is when you ask the right questions and then your client says something that comes out of their own mouth, and then they're like, "What just happened?" Right? And then you realize, wow, I there's something here that I can really give to someone. So
Do you think it's a matter of the client, like I think all of you have mentioned, asking the right questions, the dance with the questions, figuring it out? Each person is their own expert. Is it just a matter of the client? And we're not really calling them patients. These are clients, correct? They have the answers within them. It's just a matter of guiding them and bringing it out. Is that correct? Karen, would you like to expand on that?
Yeah, I think so. I think I learned to be a coach at the same time as I was learning what coaching was. So I hadn't had any previous experience of coaching. And we see this with our clients as well, that it can take time to learn how to be coached. Because some people come in thinking that they have the answers. Some people are closed off to coaching. That it's very interesting to be able to, once you get that person, work with them, they then understand what it is like to be coached, that they become an expert at being coached and being open to those questions. knowing almost in a way that when she asks me something, or when a coach asks me something, they're not criticizing me. They don't have an opinion in this. Like, I'm not ever going to say, I don't think that's right.
Mhm.
Because it's my client's answer that is going to be most powerful and most successful for them. So, and it takes a little bit of time to learn that if you've never been coached before. But when you do learn it, and as a client being coached, and you have, like Lani described so beautifully, and I call it an aha moment, when it's that, oh my gosh, like, where did that come from? And it's come from your own head, like your own brain has come up with that answer. And then once you get that, it almost becomes a little bit addictive. That's how coaching is to me, is that if somebody said to me any day of the week, would you like to be coached? I don't even have to have a topic in mind, but I'd be like 100% yes. I would love that time. And for people who aren't used to being the center of attention or having the focus on them, coaching is that opportunity where you get to be that person. And that can take a bit of getting used to, where it's all on you, but you can turn it around into a process that you absolutely value. It becomes so important to you. And when a challenge comes up, you either think, gosh, I need to speak to my coach about this, or I need to find a coach, somebody who's going to help me. And I am so lucky that I'm surrounded, like even in this room, with amazing people that can help me with those things. But, you know, even you get good to a point where you learn how coaching happens, that you can almost start to try and coach yourself a little bit. And that's where the power is that we don't want to have clients who are reliant on us for the rest of their lives, that they always have to come to us and say, hey, how am I going to deal with this? We are always there for them. That being said, and if there's something they do need to talk about, that's amazing. But for me and Laura, and I'm sure Lani's the same, success is when a client gets to a point where they can do some of that work themselves. We want to create self-sufficient, successful people, clients, dentists, dental professionals. So yeah.
And Laura, what would you say, why are people coming to you? Are they burnt out? Are they depressed? Are they stuck? What's going on? Why are they seeking your help?
I like to use the word discombobulated. They feel discombobulated in one or more areas of their lives. They just don't feel themselves. They remember a version of themselves when they did, and they just don't know how they lost their way. They don't know how to get back to that. They want to feel good. They want to feel good on all levels, professionally, personally, physically, spiritually, financially, and they just don't know. Sometimes not knowing keeps you stuck. And so by even figuring out the next right step, like Lani said, forward motion, you can start putting those pieces back together. And so I think there's this knowing, this prickliness that you feel discombobulated, you don't feel yourself. And a lot of people feel that way early on in burnout. And they rack it up to, well, this is just how it is when you're a busy professional and you're getting older. This is how it is. I start, you're not your younger self. You feel a little off. But yet that's your body and your spirit and your soul kind of throwing whispers at you. And a lot of times we don't listen to those whispers. And that's what I think a good life coach helps you do, is remember to listen to those whispers and hear them.
Mm-hmm.
Lani, would you say that that's similar to why a lot of people come to you, is that they feel like something's just not right? They feel discombobulated. Are they just feeling lost, depressed? Why are people coming to seek your services?
I think that it is very similar. I think the first thing is that they feel overwhelmed. Overwhelmed is a first symptom, discombobulated, right? The depression comes later, after they feel stuck in that. And then they feel depressed. And then they start feeling hopeless. And then sometimes, unfortunately, it's at that point do they look for coaching. And so that's usually the time people come to me, is when they've been stuck and feeling like that for a while. And then they start reaching out. Is that your experience too, ladies?
Yeah, I was going to add to that because I think this is worth mentioning as well. There are so many different coaches that coach different niches and they have different specialties. And I think in terms of this conversation, like Laura was talking about burnout, and Lana, you're talking about how people come when they're overwhelmed, and maybe it's that point where they get depressed. But equally, there are coaches who I'm very much on the top, like the earlier end to that scale, where I like to get people before they get to that point. Like, so there's different people for different situations. Like if you're already further down that road of burnout, then there are coaches like in this room now today who that's their specialty, of helping people further down that road. And like you'll know, Eric, there are so many people in our coaching community, even within dentistry, that have specialist niches. But part of coaching for me is when people, they want to achieve something, they want to set a goal, they have a way that they want to be. There's probably to some degree some of those feelings going on there as well, because why do you want to change if you're completely happy, unless you're like, I just want to achieve more, because there are those people in the world too. So coaching can help you at any point on that spectrum of, I am super happy, I am successful, I am achieving everything, but maybe I'm just looking for a little bit more or something different or a change, whilst it can go all the way down to the other end of like, oh my gosh, I have to change. My dog's gonna move.
Yeah, and this pains me to say, but Tom Brady, he left New England and went to Tampa Bay, so he doesn't exist to me anymore. He's the greatest quarterback that ever lived. He has a throwing coach. It's not to get 1% better. It's not to get 2% better. It's to get 0.01% better. So I love how you put that, Karen, how that you may just be looking to get to that next level. All right. So this I think this panel has been so great. And I think we're really, building some awareness here. I wanted to end, Laura, would start with you. I wanted to end with a 2-part question. The first one is, how do we get a hold of you? And meaning, how do we find out more about what you do, your website, or how do we get in touch with you? And number 2 is, what advice would you give to a young dental professional or just a young entrepreneur out there?
Awesome. Well, thank you for that. The easiest way to get a hold of me is our website. Karen and I are friends first and business partners second, and we co-founded the Mint Door. So our website is themintdoor.net, and there's a contact page on there that has all of our ways of getting a hold of us. So that's probably the easiest. What advice would I give? I would love if youngsters coming out, and I'm old, so I can call them youngsters, would remember, well, first of all, take time to know what their values are, and then hold those values up to every decision that they make. And if they are consistent at doing that, they will have more happiness and more fulfillment, I do believe. I'm not saying that road is going to be easy or not rocky. I'm not saying that there won't be challenges or obstacles, but at the end of the day, when they put their head down on their pillow, they'll know they made the right decision.
Oh, that's great advice. Lonnie, what about yourself? 2-parter, how do we get a hold of you? And what advice do you have for either young dental professionals or young entrepreneurs?
Yeah, thank you. The easiest way to get a hold of me is, you can go to my website, waveofwomen.com, and there's a contact on there, or you can just email direct at joinus@waveofwomen.com, and that'll reach me directly. This is the advice that I would give really any young person, dental professional or otherwise, is that once you get out of school, like so you've learned the thing, but you haven't learned the people. The easiest way to feel confident and learn to talk to people and communicate with people is to actually be curious about them, to actually walk into every opportunity, every patient that you encounter, ask questions and memorize the stories they say. When you say, how's it going lately? What have you been doing this week? Ask open-ended questions, listen to what they say, and then put that information into your memory bank. So that if a person says, I was fishing, and then you're like, oh, that's great. And you figure out how to say that back. Other patients come in, they talk about fishing. You're like, oh, I just had another patient that went fishing. And guess what? You start learning how to communicate. Because at the base of success, when you're dealing with people, is communicating and connecting with them. I think that is the biggest thing I would say. Please be genuinely curious, talk to people, memorize things about them. So, you'll be happier and it's going to be a lot easier for you.
That's such great advice to make that connection. And, I do it with the chart. I'll just write down a few things that from my previous conversation with the patient, I'll bring it up next time. And they think I have like some amazing memory. But meanwhile, I just looked up the chart notes and I'm like, hey, how was your trip to Mexico? And they're like, wow, how did you remember that? And I usually just say, yeah, I remember, but meanwhile, I was in the chart notes. But I love that idea about just building up that skill of learning how to connect. Karen, what about yourself? Laura, you mentioned the website. Is there any other way we want to get a hold of you? And
you can
also
find
advice.
Yeah, you can find Laura and I on Instagram at the Mint Door Club. We like hanging out on Instagram. As for advice, I have advice as a life coach and advice as a dentist. The piece of advice I would say as a life coach to a younger dentist would be, don't always be so busy and caught up in professional life that you don't ever have time to put yourself first and your self-care. I think that is very, very important. My second piece of advice as a dentist was something that I was told almost straight out of dental school when I was in England, it's called general professional training when you do that. And this very, very, very old dentist, I don't know how old he was, maybe he wasn't very, very old, but at that point in time when I was 23, he was very old. And he said, always say thank you at the end of the day to people who you work with, and genuinely mean it and find a reason why you're thanking them. And I did that every single day for the whole time that I practiced clinically. And even now my children, teachers at school when they were little, they say, thank you so much. It's so lovely. But it really makes a difference, because on my final day of practicing orthodontics in England, before I left to come to America, I went out to my reception team and I said, I just wanted to say thank you one last time for all your help, whatever. And a couple of these ladies on my front desk then cried. And I was like, well, don't be sad. I'm not leaving straight away. I've still got a month or so. And they said, you don't realize how much that thank you that you say every day has really meant to us. They say, we feel really seen, and who is going to do that now? And that left such an impact on me, that advice that I got when I was a baby dentist and I did left an impact on people that I didn't even realize until that moment that I was walking out the door saying goodbye.
Wow, that's great. So much great advice we got here. Again, Karen Tyndall, Laura Schwint, Lonnie Grass, thank you so much for joining us on Live with Blocky. Take care.
Thank
Thank you.
Bye.